Hey guys, welcome back to the channel McNallie Money, home of all things stock, investment, and personal finance related. Now last week we covered a Bitcoin miner by the name of DMG Blockchain Solutions. This week we're going to be following that up with a special CEO interview. They actually reached out. We were lucky enough to have the CEO on for a Q&A. We've got a lot to go through in today's presentation, but before we do, please take a second, hit the like button, you guys. It's a big help to myself and the channel. If you're not already subscribed, McNallie Money, feel free to do so. And let me know in the comment section below if you have any other questions for DMG Blockchain Solutions that we didn't get to in today's video, if you're currently holding shares, and how you think they stack up to some of the other crypto miners we cover on the channel. Now with that being said, let's get into today's update. Okay guys, so thanks so much for joining us today. We've got a special interview, two guests joining us, Stephen Eliscu, who's the COO, and we've got Sheldon Bennett, who's actually the CEO of DMG Blockchain Solutions. This is a company we've covered recently on the channel. I reached out to management. They were gracious enough to come on and answer some questions. So I'd like to get right into it, but first, thanks so much for being here with us today, you guys. Really appreciate the time.
No, happy to be here. Thanks for inviting us.
Thank you.
Great. So we'll get right into it, and I guess I'll open this one up to both of you. Can you tell us, for people who maybe missed that initial coverage, a little bit about DMG Blockchain and how you both came to be at this organization?
Sure. Well, I'll start with how we came to the organization. Stephen and I actually worked together previously in another blockchain company.
Okay.
So we had a few years of working together before I left and founded DMG. Stephen came shortly afterwards, worked in DMG. There's a bit of a downturn, a crypto winter, not the one we know now, but one a little bit before that.
Yeah.
Stephen left, went off to another company for a little while, and I'll let him speak as well. Came back a bit later as a board director, and then recently left the board and came into management again with me. But maybe Stephen will have a few words to say.
Great.
Yeah. And I guess what I would add to that is just Sheldon and I have worked together a long time. We have a great working relationship. We complement each other really well, and we're really excited about what we're doing.
Most definitely. Yeah, it seems we're starting to finally get through this crypto winter, Sheldon, which is nice for anyone invested in the space or working in the space. So tell us a bit about DMG, your operations, the company overview for anyone who's unfamiliar with it.
Sure. DMG, we started the company back in 2016 as a private company. We went public in the beginning of 2018. We were really excited about going public. It was in February of 2018. Bitcoin price was $18,000, $19,000 US. Everybody's excited.
Yeah.
Hive had just gone public. We were going public just after Hive. And we went public. It went very well. We raised about $37 million when we went public with our RTO. And about 2 weeks later, Bitcoin crashed down to $6,000. So we kind of sat there and went, oh my God, what are we going to do? But we took the money from the proceeds of going public and we invested in a property in Christina Lake, which is our flagship property.
Okay.
It's 33 acres. There's a 30,000 square foot building there. We built our own power substation there, so we're not dependent on the local utility, and we don't impact the community. So we're power independent that way. And so far we've built out that building completely. So we can fit 36 running megawatts or 45 megawatts in general into that building. And right now we're building out the back of the building in containerized Bitcoin mining.
Okay.
The goal for us is to take the approximately 1 exahash that we have running right now in the building, convert it to immersion cooling so we can push those chips harder. As well as continue to grow and hopefully get to 2 exahash. And Stephen will stop me because he's usually the one that controls what I say. But we would like to be able to double our exahash up to 2 exahash this calendar year.
Okay.
Obviously, we'll have to say a few things around, cash to do that because it is expensive to buy Bitcoin mining machines. And we also have a very strong software part of our company. When we first started back in 2016, we realized that the software that was out there for running crypto mines was limited. So we actually, when we went public, we bought a company out of Silicon Valley called Blockseer.
Okay.
Blockseer was well known in data analytics for the Bitcoin blockchain. It had many clients in law enforcement and other institutions. We purchased that company, rolled in its technology with the Blockseer Explorer software, added on Wallet Store, and took our own software called Helm and added that to it. And eventually we worked our way up to about a year and a half ago, opening our first Bitcoin mining pool called Blockseer Pool.
Great.
We quickly licensed that pool to Marathon, which is now known as Marapool. And we started a second pool with our friends at Argo called TerraPool, which is based on clean energy. And so in order to be a member of TerraPool, you would have to have clean energy or very close to 100% carbon-free energy. We do allow RECs in there, so renewable energy credits to take some of that carbon out. And so we kind of have two parts to our company called Core and Core Plus. And Core is our Bitcoin mining operations. It is our core revenue driver. And Core Plus is our software. It's, incrementally growing our revenue. We think it's going to be much bigger over time. But it takes a little bit to get software out there and revenue generating. And maybe Stephen, I'll let him say a few words. Our numbers, Stephen normally talks about our numbers, which is why I like to have him on these calls.
Sure.
Our numbers have done very well over the year. We just posted our Q4, so our full financial year. So we are September 30th filer. So we end a little bit earlier than most companies that end on December 31st.
Mm-hmm.
Even maybe if you have a few comments about the start of the company and how we're doing.
Yeah, well, I guess what I would say about the business, what investors often want to understand is the relationship between the revenue of the Core and Core Plus. In this most recent financial year ending the end of September, we had 5% of our revenue be based on our Core Plus, our software business. Longer term, we want that to grow. But we think in terms of the way valuation, the way companies are valued and the way the core business is going to be valued versus the Core Plus, typically recurring revenue software businesses are valued higher. And ultimately, we want that piece of our business to drive the greater part of the company's valuation.
Sure, yeah.
That's our goal. To get there, what we've said in terms of financial metrics is to get TerraPool to be 10% of the Bitcoin network, to derive at least 1% net fees as a result from mined blocks on TerraPool. Mm-hmm. And then, as we'll talk about a little bit in this interview, our Petra technology, where we would get a percentage of the value of transactions that are moved through TerraPool using the Petra technology. Targeted 20 basis points. We think that it gives us an opportunity to significantly grow the Core Plus revenue.
Great.
Over time.
Yeah, the Core Plus is definitely a differentiator, and we noted that in the last video as well. And I'll make a note here. We'll leave a link to the company website in the video description below, so you guys can go in and take a closer look. But my question for you, so Core Plus represents about 5% right now. The recurring monthly revenue is something I love as a investor in any company. What is kind of the target percentage revenue from Core Plus that you guys have in mind kind of longer term here?
Well, I think our longer term goal is to get to 50-50.
Okay.
Core and Core Plus businesses are 50-50. We understand that's going to take time, so we've just said that's our long-term goal.
Sure. Okay, and another thing I called out in our last video, and I just wanted to confirm, I saw in your year-end numbers, 0 debt on the books. Is that still the case for you guys?
That's changed. After September 30th, we did do a small financing on a property that we own in Delta, so just outside of Vancouver.
Yeah.
It's where we headquarter. It's a 8,000 square foot hangar with office space. So we do all of our repairs and all of our staging for all of our supply chain there.
Okay.
And we have office space in there. So a lot of our programmers and myself, we work there. So we took $1 million debt out on that building, really just to build some credit. We wanted to use that debt towards our immersion program as well. And so we're quite comfortable. It's a short-term debt, 18 months.
Okay.
So for us, with over 90 million in assets, it's a small amount of debt.
Yeah, very, very small portion. Because that was another big differentiator for me is 0 or very low debt now. plus the core division. You're focused in Christina Lake, so that's in British Columbia for anyone who's not super familiar. And it is a relatively unknown story compared to some of the marathons or riots, but you've got those partnerships. And that's why this one really stuck out to me, because when people want exposure to Bitcoin, DMG is right now probably not the first one they think of. And I think that provides a lot of opportunity from an investment standpoint to kind of get in at the ground floor, right? So that's great. That was going to be kind of one of my next questions, was the differentiators there.
Yeah, I would echo that. I mean, we're not a heavily publicized company. We sort of have our heads down, busy working on executing. It's just sort of, I think, a lot of Steve and I's personalities. We try to do a bit more when we can to reach out into media and let people know about us. But, in the Bitcoin world, we're well known. In the investor world, we have some work to do. We've hired an investor relations firm that's helping us with that. But definitely, we're not as well known as the Merits and the Riots and the Haites and Hives out there.
Well, we're going to change that for you, Sheldon. Don't worry. So next question, you talked about the 2 exahash goal. I know you guys have modified the timeline there. So maybe more so for you, Stephen, but when are we looking to cross the 2 exahash milestone, and why the change in timeline there?
Well, just given the overall environment, we thought it would be more prudent to just say, to not necessarily define that it's going to happen by the end of this calendar year. As Sheldon said, we certainly hope to do that. We're going to do everything we can to increase our hash rate, both through deployment of immersion cooling technology and purchasing new miners. But just given that the environment is not necessarily very friendly to raising equity, and it would cause dilution. We've said we don't want to do that to our investors while the share price is at its current levels, even though it's come up a lot recently. And in terms of debt raising, we are looking to raise modest amounts of debt, but at least in the near term, we want to be very careful. We don't know if this increase in Bitcoin we've truly seen the bottom, or it's a head fake. I've been in the investment community a long time. I was an equity research analyst for 9 years. I know how hard it is to make predictions, and I think we're just trying to be prudent in terms of not being as definitive on the time frame. But we are saying, I think the overall message is we do want to grow faster than the overall Bitcoin network growth, which we think will start to flatten out, especially as we look beyond the early part of this year. But then again, we need to be careful, and if Bitcoin pricing does take off, we are doing everything now to be well positioned such that we can raise that money to be able to acquire those machines.
Okay, great. That's good context. Yeah, it's easy to get kind of ahead of ourselves and excited. I'm probably guilty of that too, but I like the balance sheet first approach and kind of the reserved outlook there. So that's good. I appreciate the context. Now, in addition to the pool operations that you have, which you just spoke about, the Terra pool, you've also made a number of key kind of strategic investments in the space. I noted on the investor presentation. So can you tell us a little bit about those and what they kind of represent or mean for DMG?
Yeah, we have 2 main key investments, one in Brain and the other one in Bosonic. Both of them we made, before crypto winter started.
Okay.
Both of them we stand behind. We think they're good investments. These companies are not public companies. They're having a harder time as capital markets have dried up. But Brain is a custody company that's very similar to Tetra. They're not a full qualified custodian yet, but they're working towards that. So we really like what Brain was doing from the point of view of how coins are stored in a secure manner, and how they have an escape hatch sort of so you can get at your coins if something goes wrong. We like that technology. We like that they were on their way to becoming a qualified custodian. It went well with our needs for a pool. So with a pool, you have lots of coins from other people until they take their coins away out of the pool. So we were looking for a solution that's quite nimble and very strong and sort of focused on the needs of users. And so we picked the Brain solution over other solutions that we saw. And we made an investment in that company where I sit on that board of the company now, and ensure that, what we invested in is happening and that we're protecting the investment of our shareholders. Bosonic is a little bit different. Bosonic's a layer 2 exchange. What we liked about Bosonic was that they are based on cross-custody settlement. So the exchange itself, so Bosonic never takes your money. Unlike the FTXs of the world that take your money and then, you trade on it, and when they have your money, they can leverage it and do other things with it.
Yeah.
They don't take our money. We have an agreement with the custody that has an agreement with Bosonic. And so all of our money sits in a U.S. custody that is fully regulated. So our deposits of Bitcoin are insured with them. And so we move our coins there. We use the Bosonic exchange to do our trades. The custody company gets messages from Bosonic about the trades, and then they move the coins to another custody company. That custody company takes the cash and brings it to our account.
Okay.
And we take the cash out of our account. So it's a very nice system. It's very risk adverse, and as a company, we're very risk adverse. We've never lent Bitcoins out. We've never done any leverage on our Bitcoins. We always thought that was a very risky thing to do, and I guess maybe we were right since we didn't lose anything to BlockFi or anybody else.
For sure.
But one of the reasons we did that is because we liked the model. We really thought it went well with how we're trying to do things with pools and with Brain. The other piece that we liked is because they're able to create a marketplace for us where people can trade carbon neutral coins.
Oh, great.
So when a Bitcoin is created out of Terra Pool, it has no carbon in it versus other coins from other pools that have a mix of energy. And so one of the things that we've been working on with our friends at Bosonic is to create a marketplace where people could open up accounts in Bosonic and start buying and selling carbon-free coins. And so it's not there yet. It's something we're actively working on with them, but we think this is very interesting. The other piece that we're piloting with Bosonic is the ability to use our Petra technology, as Stephen alluded to. And Petra allows any person or finance institution, any fund to sign up and have an agreement with us, and we will put their Bitcoin transactions through our pool.
Okay.
And by doing that, you'll be moving all of your coins around carbon neutral. So it's very hard to find ways that you can move and transact without carbon. And I always give an example. People are saying, why are you doing this? Who really cares? I always give the example of like Air Canada. When you go and buy a ticket, like I'm going to Ottawa next week. Yeah. And when I go to buy that ticket, there's a little checkbox. You want to pay $13 for carbon offsets and planting trees or whatever. And not many people take that as a person, but a lot of companies have a policy to take that. And so a lot of companies will have an ESG policy that says if there's a possibility for us to not emit carbon in our activity, then we should use that possibility. And so we're giving that option out there, and we've created this option out there for companies or people that want to trade Bitcoins without a carbon impact to be able to use our Petra technology, first through Bosonic, but we'd like to bring it to many exchanges.
Yeah, I like that. We're definitely not going to get into the FTX and BlockFi debacle here. We've talked about that at length, but I definitely would say you guys are right in holding your coins close to the chest. And funny enough, I just booked a flight, and same thing. Yeah, it had those carbon numbers at the bottom there. I think there is a big appetite for it, and I definitely think it'll be growing. So between the Terra Pool, the Bosonic, and the low, or I guess virtually no carbon impact of your actual core mining operations, I think it is a claim to fame for sure as we see people move to that ESG kind of mindset. So that's good context. Now, next question. These are my the two big ones for me. Do you have any plans of M&A activity this year, given the crypto winter, companies going under, there's mining equipment up for sale, any of that kind of stuff going on?
Yeah, I think that happens all the time, whether it's a crypto winter or not.
Yeah.
I can't count how many NDAs I've done in discussions I've had about either being acquired or acquiring somebody else.
Okay.
I will say that it's easy to talk about M&A. It's hard to do.
Sure.
So, a lot of people just think, oh, it's crypto winter. The big companies are going to buy up the small companies and off they go. Yes, that makes a lot of sense, but in practicality, it's hard to do. It's really hard to merge crypto mining companies together.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be, but it is. And so, a lot of people talk about it and you don't really see much of it. I don't think you're going to see much of it. I think you'll see bankruptcies that we've already seen, or we'll see restructuring.
Yeah.
But it's really hard to do an M&A. Most crypto companies will wait for another crypto company to go bankrupt and come in for their assets rather than try and merge with them. It's just the way it is for some reason. I don't know why, but it just seems to be the way it works. So, obviously we look at deals all the time. We're finding it's easier to partner or JV with somebody than it is to merge with them.
Sure.
Completely. So I think that, for us, if there's something where we could buy somebody smaller or same size, we would be happy to do it. But most likely it'll be a JV before it would ever be a merger.
Gotcha.
I think at some point in the long term, the industry will consolidate. All industries do go through that. But right now, I don't necessarily see that on the table.
Okay.
And anything in terms of DMG with respect to M&A would be very complementary. It would be something very specific, not necessarily combined with another miner. That is not something we are looking to do.
Sure. Okay. And next one here, going into the halving event next year, 2024, what would you guys say is kind of your number one priority? Is it growing the Core Plus division? Is it the 2 exahash? Is it the reserve value? What's number one here for investors over the next, 12 to 18 months?
Well, I think we have 2 strategies, Core and Core Plus, so there's sort of 2 things that are important.
Okay.
On the Core, it's to finish our conversion to immersion cooling. We think that that's really going to push us through the halving with the fleet we have and give it a lot of longevity.
Okay.
And so by far, that's our focus this year. We've been talking about it a bit longer than we'd like to. We've kind of slowed down the spending on it, mainly because we're prudent. We don't go off and spend money if we don't know what's going to be happening in the future. Or at least have indications. So we slow down our immersion. But, good indications that Bitcoin price has found a new floor, and hopefully it'll grow from there, which will allow us to go to our board and ask to spend some more money. So I think that's number one on our Core. Getting a second exahash, getting other things are great to do, but having that first exahash that is running the most optimal, efficient, and the most profitable is the most important first.
Yeah.
And then on Core Plus, definitely bringing that new revenue in. And that's an important type of revenue because the capital structure and cost for the revenue on Core Plus is a fraction of what it costs in Core. So when you look at the CapEx to buy an exahash, back when we bought it, everybody else was buying it, you're paying $50-60 million US to buy an exahash. Now you're probably paying $20 million to buy an exahash. But again, that's a lot of CapEx to go out for the revenue you bring in. And you do bring in good revenue, especially when it's $40,000-50,000 a coin.
Sure.
But that's not there right now, but hopefully it gets back there. But when you look at the CapEx for software, it's much smaller. And so when you get a good revenue stream coming from it, it has a much bigger impact to lower capital cost.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, the mining efficiency metrics are something a lot of viewers were talking about with DMG, and it sounds like that's kind of front and center for you with the immersion cooling this year, eh?
Yeah, we've done well. I mean, Anthony Power does a monthly recap of everyone. I think there's 10 or 12 miners on it. Normally we're in there somewhere. Sometimes we're, number 10. Sometimes we're number 1. We've been number 1 the last few months.
Yeah.
It all depends on what's going on. The uptime changes a little bit depending on if we're doing something with power or with the network. So we'll have our numbers out. I think on Monday we plan on releasing our numbers. And so you'll know how we did mining last month. Hopefully we're up at number 1 again, but we don't know. We could be number 2 or 3 or 4, who knows? But we do strive to be very efficient. We've been the same location for many years. We've got down a very good team, good processes, good uptime in general. So we think that we'll do well again this month.
Yeah, fingers crossed for you. We'll be watching on Monday here. So that's... Oh, go ahead, Stephen.
I would just add on in terms of what we're doing ahead of the halving. One of the other activities that we've talked about in our disclosures is looking for new lower cost energy sources. And
okay.
Clearly with the halving, that's going to become more important. And immersion also, one of the things it does is it makes you more capital efficient, but it increases the amount of energy that's used. So we understand that with immersion, that balance is going to somewhat change. And
Okay.
so that's also part of why we're looking to do that. We're cognizant of the fact that energy costs clearly is going to be front and center. So really looking to that. And I think in terms of Core Plus is really just getting more members on TerraPool and really starting to exercise the Petra technology. We have other longer term goals, but that's our near term focus that will drive the rest of the tenor for what we talk about in Core Plus throughout the year.
Gotcha. Okay, and then to wrap things up here, where can people go to find additional information if they have more questions? What's kind of the best way to get in contact with you if people are looking to make an investment here?
I mean, our website for sure is the best place. We keep all the information there. All our public filings are there.
Okay.
We put our press releases there. Twitter, we're not super active, but fairly active. We get on a few times. If things come to us through investors at DMG Blockchain or info or one of the different emails we have, normally they find their way to Steven and I. So people have questions. We like to take those questions. Sometimes we'll answer them out on Twitter, but we usually keep them to the quarter when we do the management call, and then we answer those questions on the Q&A part at the end of our management call. So yeah, we're pretty easy to find and get a hold of if you want to talk to us. Just check our website out, fill out the form, and the questions come in, and we eventually see them at some point in time.
Yeah, please reach out.
Great. Okay, guys. Well, thanks so much for the time here. Again, I'll leave a link in the video description below. If you have any questions that we weren't able to get to today, again, feel free to leave a comment, and hopefully we can have members of the team back on again. Sheldon, Steven, I really appreciate your time. Great company, super interesting business model with the diversified revenue there. And for anyone who's still watching the video at this point, hopefully you found some value, so make sure you hit the like button. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, McNallie Money, feel free to do so. That's all for now. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you in the next update.